Now, some way to start a video, guys. By cleaning our dinosaur's pan. Um, I was just doing a few little bits off camera there, just getting back into the swing of it. So, I wanted to find out what Lucky's favourite food was. I was going through the journal when I logged in, and I seen this was blank. So I said, you know, I think in the last episode I had to guess essentially what her favourite food was, and turns out it actually is mushrooms. So that was a lucky guess. See how we're doing here. It looks like the soil is wet, but just in case. I'm not sure if we need to water every day or if it's kind of like when the soil is light brown rather than dark brown, but just in case, do this quickly. So, this is episode 4. Tonight actually is Wednesday, so this is the first time in a long time where I've actually got to do my recording on the night that I want to record, which is nice. So this week has been fairly relaxed, so far at least. Now work is work. We've had a few, I wouldn't say issues, but a little bit of friction in work this week. But you know, we've overcome it. Had a few meetings, settled our differences, and everything's tickety-boo, and we're all getting along again. So that's fine, you know. But yeah, recently we had Storm Eowyn come through. And before that, we had quite a lot of snow here in Ireland, which is quite unusual. You know, I've been talking to people who are quite a bit older than me, and they're saying, you know, they could never remember snow being this bad. Where we live, we got maybe a foot of snow, deeper in some places. You know, where we are is quite rural, and some of the farmers couldn't get out of their own houses. You know, they'd have Hiluxes or Land Cruisers. Couldn't get out of their own driveways because of the snow, which was a couple of weeks ago. So that was one thing. Way to start the new year was to have this snowstorm, and it was nice, you know. Like, because we don't get it often, the country kind of struggles with that kind of weather. You know, I've often said it, because Ireland has such a temperate climate that it can't deal with the extremes. So when we have a heat wave during summer, we have, in inverted commas, extreme heat. In reality, it's just a lack of rain, but the country can't handle it. After 3 weeks of no rain, water starts to dry up, and all of a sudden the farmers can't, you know, look after their crop or their livestock, and people start panic buying in the shops. And then to the opposite extreme, whenever we have, you know, high winds or high rain or low temperatures, that also happens. You've people panic buying and the country grinds to a halt. So we'll talk to Mary, see what she has to say, and then I will tell you about Storm Eowyn and the very exciting night that Orla and I had with the cats. Okay, so we'll make our way over to Eowyn. We had a quest for him as well, I believe, anyway, so we'll go have a word with him. Maybe I don't have enough inventory space for this. Yeah, that's what's happening here. Okay. So yeah, we had that storm, or maybe it wasn't necessarily a storm, I suppose. It was just like a big snow. I don't think it was named or anything like that, but yeah, some people really had a hard time of it. Just getting to and from work, getting to and from the shops. Some people lost electricity. But you know, all in all, it was okay. Storm Eowyn, definitely a step up. Um, a lot scarier for many people across Ireland, and you know, like days before, people were hunkering down and panic buying. Um, so you know, like we were going into the shops just to do our weekly shop as normal, really, and all the shelves were emptied, and it kind of took us a minute. You know, we were like, "What's going on? Like, are we just late?" You know, it wasn't like near closing time or anything like that. And then obviously we put two and two together, and yeah, sure enough, people rightfully in this case, I think, were battening down the hatches um, for Storm Eowyn. Wow. After the man with all the lists and records and checklists and stuff, he can't track his time. Yeah, I'll try not to. 31 potatoes. Mm. So he can't keep track of time and he can't keep track of his belongings, but he's trying to lecture me on taking notes. No worries, Owen. I suppose we all have our faults. Um, I was looking into, I think in episode 1 when we met Owen, I commented on how his name is spelt. So, you know, his name, I said, in my opinion, was quite Welsh. In Ireland, we might spell it Eoin, um, or Eoghan. And then when I lived in Scotland growing up, you know, I would have known one or two people who would spell it, you know, Owen, and that was before I moved to Ireland. That's the spelling I was familiar with. So it's nice to see this Owen kind of has a blend of that, you know, kind of I would say British spelling with the W, but he's also got the Welsh, you know, Wyn. So I put it into ChatGPT, and sure enough, there is this kind of Celtic slash Welsh divide, where I believe, and I can check this, that words that end in WYN in Welsh signify as kind of bright or beautiful, um, which I thought was really cool. And then the kind of Celtic, so Scots Gael or just, you know, Irish Gaeilge, like, there's a variation on how we spell it too, and there's a reason behind that, but I can't remember what that actually is. But yeah, I don't actually remember what made me think of it, um, to look it up or to put it into ChatGPT, you know. Um, this is clover, is it? I should have some in my inventory. Maybe I'm just full. Oh, no, never mind. It's dandelion that we need. Yeah, so just the Eowyn. As soon as I seen it, I thought of Lord of the Rings. But obviously has the WYN spelling at the end of it, so I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, it was a different kind of storm this time. Um, you know, people were heading home early from work. Some people were just downright not going into the office and stuff like that, because you know, and they're completely right. Um, I think it was a red weather warning in Munster, or a couple of counties in Ireland. Um, by the end of the week, it was a red weather warning for the whole country. And generally, what happens in Ireland is Kerry and Cork, which are the very kind of south of the country, pointing towards the Atlantic, they normally get the brunt of the storms. So when I lived in Galway with my family, there would be, oh, this big storm is coming in, you know, you better be careful. Um, and it was never that bad, really. And then you'd see it on the news. You know, Kerry has been absolutely destroyed. Cork is flooded. You know, so they take the brunt of it. But this time with Storm Eowyn, you know, Cork and Kerry, I was expecting it to be the business as usual. And then, you know, Limerick is just north of that. So we were expecting to get it pretty badly. But it seems that Cork, or not Cork, Clare and Galway have been hit the most severely. Um, which in my time in Ireland, I've lived in Ireland for 15 years. That's never been the case. Um, so yeah, just a different kind of storm altogether. They're saying it's kind of once in a generation. Um, you know, and it just got me thinking a little bit, I suppose, where, you know, some of the people I've spoken to around where we live, they're saying the snow that we had there. Can I not place this? Or is it just a perimeter zone, is it? Okay, fair enough. This snow that we had recently is once in a generation. They've never seen snow like this before, and some of these people are 50, 60, you know? Lived in the same place their whole lives, never seen snow like this. And then, I would say, 2 weeks later, um, we had a massive windstorm, or a hurricane, that knocked out one of the biggest cities in Ireland, really. You know, Galway's a pretty populated county, and I think it's the end of January now, and people are still without water, still without power. Some trees have gone through people's roofs. I think one person in Donegal lost their life. A tree came down on their car. You know, really kind of severe stuff. And then in between all that, on the other side of the Atlantic, well, I guess on the other side of the world, because it's not just the Atlantic, you know, California's on fire. We have the Palisades wildfires that, again, in my life, I've heard of wildfires in California, but never in that area. And I think with these wildfires, maybe to kind of caveat it, maybe they were man-made. You know, maybe that there was human factors with the Palisades fire, where someone deliberately or unintentionally started those fires. But you know, it seems to be what a lot of people are claiming. As we increase our industrialization, as we continue to pollute the world, the climate is destabilizing. So, you know, again, a lot of people who are older than me in Ireland said, "Oh no, snow was a pretty regular thing in winter." But then you'd have really, really nice summers, you know, as you would expect. As the sun rotates around the Earth, you have seasonal changes when they're meant to happen. And what I've seen in Ireland in the past 10 years is that the summers have just gotten wetter and greyer, and the temperature doesn't really fluctuate. And then the winters, same kind of thing. It's like just moderate and grey and wet. And you're probably saying, like, okay, you're saying that, and at the same time you're saying the climate's destabilizing. It's like, well, it is, essentially, because we've gone from, you know, through word of mouth, I haven't looked into this officially, but we have an Ireland that had a relatively predictable weather system where it was cold in winter and hot in summer, and it's gone just kind of unpredictable and the same thing all the time, just rain, just wetness. And in amongst all of that, you know, that's one thing. Okay, we have a little bit more rain. Okay, you know, maybe not the end of the world if you're a farmer and you need to... Actually, I'm going to take that statement back. Because as good as rain is, it can seriously affect crops. So I'm actually going to take that statement back. Too much rain is also a bad thing for farming. But what I was going to say is, you know, the weather's gotten a little bit wetter. Okay, that's not the end of the world, you know. So what? But in amongst this kind of unpredictable weather system, we now have these extreme storms. So rather than it being, you know, a little bit cold in winter for a few months, it's just wet for a few months, and then we have this catastrophic storm that knocks out, you know, electricity for 7 days in one of the most populated places in Ireland, you know? Um, so look, yeah, I don't know. From what I can see, again, I'm not a meteorologist, I'm not an expert. I I'm very passionate about the environment, but I haven't got the research or the sources to back this up. It does seem like we are going in a certain way, and you know, people my age and those younger than me are gonna have to deal with the consequences of that. Um, so without naming names, without bringing politics into it, this party or that party or this political system or that team, you know, red versus blue, none of that. I'm not talking about that. I'm just, I suppose, just putting it out there and talking, or at least trying to be objective. It would seem that the weather system on Earth is becoming more unstable, less predictable, and when things get bad, they are worse than what we're used to. So, you know, we used to get bad storms, now we get horrific storms. And I'm saying it's trending that way. I'm not saying it's definitely happening, I'm not putting any theories to this. If that is the case, if, you know, and it's getting worse, as a lot of people are claiming, and a lot of research has gone into it to say it is, then, you know, my generation and the younger generations are going to deal with that. And it is something I think about quite a lot. It is something that I am worried about, and you know, just talking about work at the start of the video, oh, work is fine, it is what it is. If I could, I would, at some point in my career, like to work in energy systems. So, you know, I'm an engineer. I work in the biomedical sector, but at some point I would like to work with energy systems, so wind turbines, or, you know, more efficient engines or hydrogen engines or stuff like that, to do my bit, you know, to try do my part um, for our world, because I think it is going to be up to us, as in my generation, to, I guess, right the wrongs that have been done over the past 200 years. You know, without the Industrial Revolution, I essentially wouldn't have a job. You know, the developments in machines and factories and stuff, mass production because of the Industrial Revolution, that brought about societal changes where, you know, people were dotted across the country. Whoops, sorry. I can't remember, is it a medium or no, it's definitely a large, isn't it? Too close to the corner. We had this, you know, complete change in society where people who lived in rural areas and had rural jobs moved into you know, cities for work, for a reliable income. And as horrible as that was, you know, for, as in the living conditions for people, you know, it was a way to make reliable money for your family, and from that we had cities, and then we had, you know, demands and developments in healthcare and all these things that have led to me having a job. But at some stage we need to step back and say, this thing that we have going on at the moment is fantastic. It's the most advanced we've ever been. I think in the Western world, at least child mortality is the lowest it's ever been. At least in Ireland, it certainly has. Um, you know, People are probably the most free they've ever been. They have the most say in their own lives and stuff like that. And that's phenomenal. But we should always be asking ourselves, is there a better way to do this? Um, and I think there is. I genuinely think there is. A, a big part of why I get worried about the environment and such is, doom scrolling and stuff like that on social media. You're just seeing a constant kind of barrage of negative information. And it is quite understandable, I think, to feel hopeless and worried about the future. I think a lot of people are suggesting or claiming that the human population will actually go into decline because the Western world has aging populations. Basically, people that are my age or a little bit older aren't having as many kids as they used to. And I think that's a big, big issue to talk about. That's huge. And again, who am I? I'm not an expert. But, you know, there's a lot of kind of facets that go with that. Um, we have a housing crisis in Ireland, so people my age aren't having kids because they're still living at home, for example, you know? Hydrangeas, very good. I'd like to talk about hydrangeas at some point, actually, because they're one of my favourite plants. So that's obviously for cooking. Okay, cool. I wonder, does this grow into fibre? Is this carnivore fruit? Yeah, okay, we already said that. A lot of people my age aren't having kids because they can't get houses. That's one factor in this claim that, we're actually gonna have a declining human population in the future. I think one of the reasons a lot of people my age aren't having kids is because the future is so uncertain. Like Orla and I, we've been together nearly 7 years, and if we were able to have a house, I think we would like to have children of our own. But is that the right thing to do? If there's a high possibility or probability that that child will grow up in a world that was worse than when I was a child, then maybe I don't want to have kids. I don't want to subject my kids to that. I don't want to see them come into a world that dying is a very strong word because it's not dying. The earth will live much longer than we will. It will endure much worse things than us and has already endured much worse things than us. So I'm reluctant to say I don't want to bring kids into a dying world, because it's not. But in simple terms, in simple English, I don't want to bring children into a world that might not have a future, for humans at least. And the only way I'm gonna get rid of that anxiety or alleviate that problem is if I do my bit. So I think in the next few years the writing will be on the wall, and it will become increasingly difficult to deny the data. So the data would suggest that climate change is real. You're entitled to your own opinion. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here to make a little dinosaur video on YouTube and enjoy my evenings after work. But the data would suggest that climate change is real and that the global climate is becoming more unstable. Um, I have to concentrate on watering my crops. So, yeah, as I was saying, um, I think in the next 10 years, it's gonna become much more difficult to kind of deny the claims. You know, I think a lot of people at the moment are, one, unaffected by climate change. So, you know, if climate change is real, big deal, it doesn't affect me. I think in the next 10 years that will change, and it will hit home for a lot of people. Um, you know, it might be an Irish farmer who has to deal with drought during the summer. He's gonna have to adapt his farming techniques to account for that. Or it could be, you know, a child in India who doesn't get water anymore during the summer because drought has become so severe. Or it could be that you live on the side of a river that for the past 300 years has never flooded, and all of a sudden your house floods every single year and you can't get home insurance. Stuff like that. I think in the next 10 years we're going to see more and more of that. So one, more people are going to feel the effects of climate change, and therefore they're going to buy into it more, and they're going to care about it more. You know, it wasn't so much. I didn't care about it when, you know, it affected people in Southeast China, but I care about it now because I can't go to the shops and get, you know, barley or potatoes, for example. Um, so that's one thing, is, you know, people are going to become more affected by it and therefore they will care more. I think the way it will become is almost like, I forget his name. Is it Cornelius Fudge in Harry Potter, where, you know, at the end of the Goblet of Fire, Voldemort comes back and Harry's trying to tell everyone, you know, Cedric Diggory was killed by Voldemort. Voldemort's back, and we need to do something about it. And no one wants to hear it because it's too scary to face. I I know I'm gonna push this button, and this patch of soil that I've just tilled is gonna disappear. But I can't remember how to plant seeds. I thought it was with the hoe, but it's saying here, you know, look the red block. So if I go in here, see, I knew that was gonna happen. So I don't know why I did it, but anyway. Watering can, water this bit of soil, and I think we should maybe put down spring onions because we have a lot of potatoes and we have a lot of carrots. I feel like it's gonna be like the start, the end of Goblet of Fire and the start of the Order of the Phoenix, where that's where we are right now, where the Ministry of Magic, the powers that be in the world, are kind of waiting to see what happens and denying that this is happening. Because it has major implications for the world economy. You know, I can understand why certain, not that I agree with it, but I can certainly understand why certain corporations are reluctant to buy into climate change, because it's going to cost them hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to rectify. There's certain companies like Shell, you know, if we get rid of fossil fuels, what's Shell gonna do? You know, maybe they can get into the wind turbine business, but you know, Shell's main focus, our selling point, is fossil fuels. So obviously they don't want to see fossil fuels become redundant or removed. Now I don't think that is actually possible. I think we're always going to have some sort of reliance on oil and such, be it fossil fuels or, you know, synthetic fuels. But I digress. I think that's where we are at the moment. Is a lot of people, especially, you know, the big guys, the Fortune 500s, are waiting to see what's gonna happen. because it's not convenient for them to accept this and change. But eventually, you know, Voldemort reveals himself, and everyone goes, "Oh, Voldemort is back. Right, what do we do?" And you know, you see in Harry Potter, like by that stage, the Ministry is taken over. You know, but at that stage, it's too late. The damage is done. You know, we deny. You know, Voldemort isn't back. Harry Potter's lying, and then, you know, whoops, I did not mean to do that at all. But that's good to know I can do that, so I can move my farm and my pond to somewhere more convenient. Put it there for now. Watering can. You know, we need to act now. Let's not take the chance, because you know the consequences aren't worth it. You know, talking about Shell and saying, you know, their main source of income is selling fossil fuels. I work with a lot of companies, and I don't think there's an issue with me using their names, but I'm not going to, just in case. A lot of companies that I work with, or they supply me with material, work with PTFE. A lot of people know it as Teflon, so, you know, your non-stick frying pans are coated in Teflon, this miracle material that was accidentally invented in a lab. It has very serious health effects on humans. I don't have enough shells. What? Is it because I bought this? No, I do, surely. Oh man. Alright. I didn't realize how poor we were. It looks like Agami has a quest for us too. I work with a lot of companies that supply us with PTFE because it's a material that has very unique properties that the biomedical industry rely on quite heavily. It's a wonder material. And nothing else is like it. No one, to my knowledge, and I have quite a lot of knowledge on this because it's my job, no one on Earth has been able to replicate the properties of Teflon. It's a one of a kind, and we need to use it. It is necessary for the industry to use this seriously harmful material. And because there's no replacements, there's not a whole lot we can do about it, to be honest. But there are concerns within our industry that there's going to be restrictions in future. In the next years, maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, that there will be some serious restrictions on fluoropolymers, which is the family of polymers that PTFE is a part of. You know, if you've heard about this in the news, PFAS is the kind of buzzword, or PFOA. That's the kind of harmful substance associated with fluoropolymers. And there's a kind of concern in our industry that overnight PTFE will just be banned, just gone, completely wiped off the slate, and the biomedical device industry will essentially collapse. Obviously, that's not going to happen. You know, we can, in the name of protecting people from PTFE, we can't destroy our biomedical device industry, you know, because many more people will die from lack of care than, you know, from PTFE. So, you know, you don't need to worry about that. But the point I'm trying to get at is some companies, like my own, have, as in the company I work for, have looked at this and gone, there's a risk that PTFE will be restricted, and that will affect our business. Before the restrictions come in, let's be proactive. Let's get ahead of the curve and try remove as much PTFE from our devices as possible. So if the restrictions happen, we won't be as badly hit. And I feel like you can apply that to the kind of global attitude to climate change. Some people in relation to PTFE are saying, look, there's no need to worry. PTFE is going nowhere. You don't need to change anything. And maybe that's true. Maybe there's no reason to worry at all. But what if you're wrong? You know? What if PTFE is banned and all of a sudden the devices that we used to sell are no longer permitted to be sold? Our business will collapse overnight. So why take the risk? You know? If there's even a small chance that PTFE is going to be banned, why shouldn't we take the risk? You know, let's reduce the risk as much as possible. Let's be proactive. Let's get ahead of the curve. If the restrictions don't come in, great. That's fine. If they do come in, we're prepared for it. And I feel like you could apply that logic and thinking to climate change. Let's stop arguing about who's right and who's wrong. Let's be proactive. Let's not take the chance, because we only have one Earth. There's no other option out there for us at the moment. Maybe in my lifetime, maybe in my grandchildren's lifetime, there will be other planets viable for human life. But we only have one place right now where we can live. Let's not take that chance. Let's be proactive. Maybe climate change isn't a thing. Maybe there's just some spooky stuff going on with the weather, completely unrelated to human behavior. Maybe. Maybe. But what if you're wrong? You know? What if you're wrong? What if climate change is real? And like the Ministry of Magic, by the time we realise that, what if it's too late? And we can't do anything about it now. And there's places like, you know, the west coast of India is flooded. You know, America, like the northwest of America is, or southwest of America is just on fire all the time. You know, due to wildfires. You know, this is a very real concern, I think, where you have millions of people in India. There's a billion people in India. What happens if they're displaced? We're going to have a refugee crisis. What happens if, you know, California just becomes, it's just too dangerous to live there? So people start leaving California, or Los Angeles, I should say. They leave Los Angeles and go elsewhere. That's going to affect other areas. It's going to drive up the cost of housing. There's going to be a housing crisis. There's going to be, I'm reluctant to use the word refugees, but there will be a refugee crisis. If the climate destabilizes to such a point where farmers can't predict the weather, crops will start to fail. You know, the reason we can grow crops at such large quantities to feed such a massive population of humans is because we know how to farm. What if the conditions change? You know, what if all of a sudden the rule book that farmers have been following for 250 years changes, and all of a sudden we don't have enough food to feed 8 billion people? It's a snowballing effect where, you know, there's less food. People can't live where they traditionally lived because of wildfires, flooding, you name it. You have a refugee crisis, which then heightens the food demand and the shelter demand, and it just snowballs into an unstable situation. And, you know, I've got into the flow this episode. I'm actually really enjoying talking about this. It's something I'm very passionate about, but, we are kind of at the end of the episode. Um, Actually, no, we're not, because we need to make sure that Layla's happy and that she has everything she needs. So, Layla the Gallimimus, she's got everything she needs. Yeah, that's right. Okay, okay, okay. That's fine. Um, let's see if we can feed her a carrot. I don't think carrot's her favorite food, but let's give it a try. Um, No, not too bothered about that. She doesn't like mushrooms. I gave her a mushroom at the start of the episode and she hated it, so we know that's not her favorite food for sure. Um, yeah, like, I haven't even noticed myself playing the game, really, because I've just been in such a flow talking about this topic that I'm very passionate about. And I guess to kind of wrap up the episode, you know, it's something we shouldn't be too worried about. I think it's something we should pay attention to. I think it's something we should take seriously. But I don't think it's... I'm guilty of it myself. I'm very guilty of this. I don't think we should get too down and, kind of overly concerned about it. I think we should treat it as the serious issue that it is. But I think, the indomitable human spirit will figure it out. The Earth certainly will. She's been through 5 mass extinction events. She's dealt with a lot worse than humans and their cars. Earth will prevail. But I think we have it in us to overcome this problem. The big companies may not like it because it hurts their pocket. I hear you, but you're just gonna need to just take this one on the chin, you know? I think we will overcome this. I'm sitting here playing, using my, magic box, essentially, with, RGBs to play a game about dinosaurs. Animals that lived 65 million years ago. And while I'm playing that game, I'm talking to, hopefully, an audience who are watching this video on another magic box that produces light. It's absolutely insane that I'm able to sit at my desk on a Wednesday afternoon and talk about climate change. The fact that we even know what climate is, the fact that language is a thing, that I'm able to communicate, about a highly scientific topic using essentially magic. What is electricity but sorcery? We're a pretty amazing species. And I think it's okay that we've made a mistake. We didn't have trains before the Industrial Revolution. There was only one way to run them, and that was using coal. We've grown as a species. Maybe there's a better way to do things than using coal and oil. And I think we have it in us to figure that out. So yeah, I think that's a message of hope, is things might be quite scary and things might get worse in the next few years. I'm fairly certain they will, in terms of the climate at least. But we'll overcome it. And I'll leave it there. And I'll see you in the next episode.